Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Tell Me Lies. We got season 3, finally, the last season. I cannot believe it's already here. I just finished watching episode 1, and I am so excited for what's in store. I did a rewatch of seasons 1 and 2 to try and get back into the world and really fully immerse myself and feel all of those crazy feelings again. And I'm just so ready to discuss all of season 3 with you. In a similar fashion to the opening of season 2, we start with the future timeline, or present in some way, 2015, at Bree's wedding. We see Lucy getting ready, and we know that we just left off at the end of season 2 with Bree getting a voicemail. But before we even get to that, we see this conversation with Lucy and Pippa. Lucy's talking about how she doesn't know where Steven is, and it's kind of a callback. Do you remember in season 2 when Lucy and Diana were saying, like, oh, it's scary when you don't know where he is? I mean, truly, I agree. When he's not in the room, it's scary when he's in the room, but if you don't know where he is, like, who knows what that man is up to? And obviously, Pippa is kind of confused about why Lucy seems to care so much. So she's like, are you seeing each other again or talking? And Lucy kind of says, oh, well, it depends what you mean by talking. She says that in a way, paraphrased. Because we know what she did, I guess it was the night before, where she is still trying to play little tricks and games with Steven, even though she's with Max. And that resulted in them having a moment. So Lucy is still up to these games with Steven. Lucy swears to Pippa that nothing is happening. And Pippa says, like, yeah, better not, because he ruined your life sophomore year, remember? Which, to me, that's just telling us as the audience that whatever is happening in this season, aka the second semester of this sophomore year, is somehow going to be even worse than season 2. We see the aftermath of Bree listening to the voicemail, which, if you don't remember, it is when Steven recorded him talking to Evan about Lucy hooking up with Evan, basically cheating on Bree. It's just a recording of that conversation that they had, that he sneakily did. And sends to Bree just before she's about to get married, of course, because he is ridiculous and he'll hold this grudge for years. He literally held this voice recording for so long just to time it up perfectly at this exact moment. Lucy runs off after her asking what's wrong, and this is when we get something that kind of surprised me, shocked me. Bree starts to say, I'm a terrible person, I'm probably the worst person you know. And it's like, what are we setting up for? What could Bree have possibly done that allows her to somewhat excuse Lucy? Like, she's not yelling at Lucy in this moment. She's not saying, oh my gosh, I just found this out. What did you do? This is awful. Like, there's something that she has done that this voicemail is triggering that's making her not somehow mad at Lucy or even potentially Evan. She's just not even addressing it at all. Isn't that strange? Cut to January of 2009. We can infer this is winter break before the start of the second semester of sophomore year. We see Lucy waking up and she rolls over and Bree's there and she wakes her up. So I also assumed that Bree is staying at Lucy's place for winter break. They talk and Bree says it's one of the nicest winter breaks she's had, obviously considering the circumstances. Which to me, okay, all I can think about was, isn't her house just like her mom and her stepdad that Lucy hates so much? Like, I can't imagine that they actually had a good break together. Is this just me thinking about this? Because just knowing how much Lucy, I mean, unless Lucy has healed a ton and we just haven't seen it, healed with her mom, the relationship with her mom, but I don't know. They must have gotten over something. Lucy gets a text from Steven, which she sneakily looks at, because obviously we know Bree doesn't approve, and he says, what time do you get to campus? And I'm just thrown back into the, oh yeah, Lucy's back with Steven. Like, it actually, even though I just did rewatches of seasons 1 and 2, I'm like, I can't believe we're here again. Bree says she doesn't approve of the relationship, but like, Lucy is her friend, so she's gonna try and be somewhat supportive of her, and basically says that Lucy doesn't have to hide it. I mean, she still obviously does say, you know, it's kind of psychotic, which then leads Lucy to go into this conversation about how she feels comfortable because they know so much about each other that nothing at this point can really shock her about him. And I'm like, girl, we know one thing. We don't have the full story about Macy. There is something else that can shock you. Now we get to see the boys, our lovely Stephen Demarco. We get to see his just beautiful face again. We learn that Stephen stayed in Evan's place over the break. He was with his brother, but then he had to get out of there. But he didn't see his mom the whole time. Him and his mom are still not talking. And all I can think is, like, just this man is lonely. You know, his actions, well, do they catch up with him? Because then he gets Lydia. But at the end of the day, he is deeply lonely. We also learn that Wrigley is no longer living with Stephen because he doesn't want the reminder of everything that happened. So I guess Stephen's going to be living on his own now? Evan does a little temperature check on his friendship with Stephen and asks if everything is okay between them after Stephen learning about what happened between him and Lucy. And clearly Stephen is, he says, I'm trying to get past it. I want to be with Lucy. I don't want to blow everything up again. But I'm working on it. And it's so clear that he's, like, still really pissed off. And then Stephen is about to leave. He's saying, thank you again for letting me stay. Oh, by the way, like, there's a few dishes. Let me just come back and just clean those dishes that are still in the sink. He's saying this as he's essentially leaving. And obviously Evan, being the too nice guy that he is, says, oh no, I'll do it. We get to see the sink, and it is disgusting. And I'm like, this just makes so much sense for Stephen. Of course he would be doing this. And I think it's not just him and his habits, but I think it was supposed to be like a little dig at Evan to do that, to leave all of his stuff, all of his gross food and dirty dishes all over the kitchen. Wait, and I wonder if it's kind of a metaphor for everyone cleaning up after Stephen, like cleaning up Stephen's mess. Or having to. Pippa and Wrigley moment. We learn that Pippa has been with Wrigley the whole winter break, making sure he's okay, comforting him, and kind of like just keeping an eye on him. You can tell that when they get back from break, she's nervous to not be around him all the time because she just wants to make sure that he's okay at all times. I love these two and their dynamic, but we also learn that, well, they seem to be back together. They're dating again. And while I think they're so cute, Pippa is not playing for that team. Pippa likes someone else, romantically at least. There is going to be a decades party this night. We see all the girls talking about it. We also have some big hair changes, which I want to discuss. Bree, I didn't hear anything about why Bree got that big haircut. I mean, we can understand like what it symbolizes in this new semester for her, and I mean the hair changes for all the girls, but did I miss something, or did they talk about Bree's dramatic, because it's dramatic, like that's a dramatic haircut. And then Pippa is back to, she's not blonde anymore. Bree mentioned something about, oh, you're not bleaching your hair anymore, and she says, yeah, it feels kind of wrong to have bleach blonde hair in a house of mourning, which I get it. And Lucy has a lot longer hair this season. What do you think that symbolizes? Pippa asks Bree if she's heard from the 40-year-old man. She hasn't. They haven't talked, and Bree would like to just go forward, hoping she never runs into him. She says, if last semester wasn't rock bottom, I'm going to be so pissed. And, I just had to take a deep breath, because I know that's some foreshadowing. Like, we know this show. Last semester is not rock bottom. It's going to somehow get lower. Stephen knocks on the door, and he tries to be polite and says to Pippa and Bree, you guys have a good break. And I just love their nods back. They went, I just love how they're trying to be good friends and like be somewhat cordial, but also they know Stephen is psychotic and they hate his guts. And I think Bree is trying her best to be a good friend and saying like, I know it's a psychotic decision, but also she knows if she tells Lucy like, you can't be with him, that might only draw Lucy closer into his arms. She kind of unfortunately might have to learn it herself. But yeah, I'm glad they're trying to keep their distance from Stephen, because they should. Everyone should. And when Lucy and Stephen leave, Pippa just turns to Bree and goes, that is so dark. And I'm like, yes, it's dark. Lucy and Stephen then go back to her room, and I'm just like, I'm having the worst deja vu. I cannot believe we're back here again. We actually do get a conversation between Pippa and Bree right after this, where they say, are we bad friends for not intervening? Pippa says, I don't know what we could say that she doesn't already know, that she hasn't already heard, which is which is true. She knows the most. Lucy knows more than they even do. And they kind of, I mean, they don't really take bets, but they kind of talk about like, oh, I bet it'll be over by spring break. Bree's like, you think it'll even take that long? And Pippa says, well, this campus is quite honestly cursed, so it's a possibility. And I'm telling you, throughout all these seasons, that's true. And I keep thinking, everyone needs to transfer out of this college. Everyone needs to leave Baird, especially certain people. I mean, Steven's not going to leave, but I'm like, Lucy, Bree, and Pippa, find a school, transfer there together, just leave. You need to leave. As Pippa and Bree are walking up the stairs, guess who they see? They see Oliver, and he just goes, Happy New Year? Like, really awkwardly. It's just so awkward. Back to Steven and Lucy. They're having pillow talk in her dorm. I want to vom. And Steven brings up Bree. He says, oh, you know, you and Bree have gotten really close. I'm like, it is starting. It is starting. He's never going to get over this, of course, because he's Steven. And he is just going to bring this up. Okay, now it's time for the decades party. These college parties are such a fun way, I feel like, for the costume designers to show some chops and just have fun with it. I love everyone's looks. And of course, Steven's there, not in a costume. I mean, that's just perfect. When I rewatched the Halloween episode from last season and he was the only one not in costume, I was just like, that makes so much sense for Steven. So Lucy, Steven, and then Evan and Bree are near each other. And Evan's asking Bree, you know, how your break was, how was it? And of course Steven chimes in and says, oh yeah, she was with Lucy the whole time. It's so cute. He knows how to poke every button, push every button. Steven takes yet another dig at Evan when, you know, Bree is asking about what he's going to do after graduation. Evan says, I don't know, I guess like in finance. Steven's like, why? Evan's like, I'm a finance major. And Steven says, oh, I never pictured you as having a major. Shut up, Steven. I'm just getting nervous at this point. I'm like, what is he possibly going to do to Bree to get back at Evan? I don't know. Evan was he was so good in season 1 and he seemed so sweet and competent. And then it's just like, how can you still be friends with this guy? How can you still be friends with this guy? I mean, now, the thing is now Steven has something over his head, so that's a problem. Then we have a returning new character, Molly. She comes around. She's hugging everyone. She is clearly on something, which then leads the group to obtain that drug, and I'll take it. She was funny here, and Wrigley even had he always has some good comic relief. He says, I want the drugs that make Molly nice to Evan. I laughed. They call up this dealer, who's some grad student named Alex. This unlocks new character of season 3. I have seen this online, like little bits and pieces of this character and just his look. So I was waiting for him to come on the screen. Pippa and Bree get in his car, and it's just like a very weird interaction. There's just like the radio playing. They're just in silence. He's very mysterious. Him and Bree share this like look in the rearview mirror. And then she says when they leave, oh, have we bought from him before? Because he looked really familiar. Which I don't know what they're going to turn that into. Because they made a clear point for Bree to say that he looked familiar. The group all are given the pills. Which, of course, Steven the liar is the only one. He pretends that he takes it, but he just puts it in his pocket. I hate this man. Pippa sees Diana from across the room. I loved Diana's little costume here. It was like a little sailor kind of outfit. I am so glad that they are styling her better this season. But Pippa is like, I need to go over there. And she just starts towards Diana. They catch up for a second. Pippa tries to break the ice and make things feel a little bit more comfortable by saying, oh yeah, we're all about to take Molly. And Diana says, like, why would Wrigley do that? That's the worst thing he could do right now for his mental health. Like, who had that idea? And Pippa says, oh, you know, like Bree, Lucy, Evan, Steven. And Diana has a great line here. Like, she really frustrated me in a lot of season 2. I think she was awful in a lot of times, but she says, oh, that's a lot of sound judgment. That group has a lot of sound judgment. I was like, that was a good one. She says she's so done with hearing about that group of people. Like, yeah. I'm glad you've come to that now. Because, yes. They leave that conversation somewhat tense, so we'll see where this relationship goes. Pippa comes back after talking to Diana and says, oh, I don't think we should do it anymore. And says to Wrigley, it might not be good. I don't want anything bad to happen to you. I don't want it to give you that kind of come down. And he's frustrated because I think he feels like she's babysitting him a little bit too much. But it turns out that Wrigley already took it anyway. So it doesn't matter. The Molly starts to kick in for the group. Evan is smiling. He latches onto Steven. And Steven's completely sober and still hates Evan, so he kind of shrugs him off, which was a funny moment. But then we get such a cute montage of Lucy and Bree, and I'm like, oh, I wish that one bad thing never happened, because they are such a sweet friendship, and I love how they're painting this relationship. So far this season, they're there's music playing so you can't see what they're saying, but it looks like they're having a conversation where Bree says, "You're so kind," to Lucy, and it's just cute. But then we see Steven from afar looking, and he is so mad. He is both, I think there's obviously a mix of him. He keeps being reminded of Lucy and Evan, and also he seems jealous of Bree's closeness with Lucy, which makes sense for him as a manipulative person, because Bree is a voice of reason and sound judgment that Lucy could always turn to. And he can't, if he's going to be crazy and manipulative, he wants to isolate his victims. Steven and Lucy decide to go home. Then we see Bree sitting on the porch of this house and she's smoking, which is a bad habit that she still has from her Oliver moment. Wrigley comes out and he starts to talk to her. And when Bree wants to leave, Wrigley realizes, oh, I shouldn't let you walk home alone. So he offers to escort her home. So the Molly has not kicked in yet for Wrigley, but it sure has for Bree, as we know. And she's just having a moment looking at the stars, and she wants to sit down for a second. So they both sit at this bus stop. Bree is so funny here. She completely just unloads about, she says in one sentence, yeah, last semester I had an affair with a married 45-year-old, and it completely messed me up. And it was just so funny to see Wrigley's reaction. I'm so glad they used some kind of contacts on her to give her those huge pupils, because it sells it, and it's so funny. The two of them just have this incredibly tender conversation and scene with each other. I was so happy watching this because they're two characters that I personally love. They're sweethearts. Well, they do some bad stuff, but at their core, they're sweetheart characters. We learned that Wrigley's parents had him when they were pretty young, and that Bree's mom had her when she was 14. They just have this really raw, real moment with each other. Then we cut to Steven and Lucy, and it's oh, here we go again. And this is where Steven tries to approach the conversation about what happened with her and Evan. And of course, it makes so much sense. Of course he's going to do this while she's high, because he is trying to get that answer out of her. And he wants her to be vulnerable so that he can do that. So he is essentially coercing her to say, he says, I want to be totally honest from now on, which, that's funny, Steven, because you have not been, and you're not coming clean tonight. I know that. And he's so icky in this scene. The way that he's asking her the questions and looking towards her eyes, he's testing her. He gets really targeted with his questions, and Lucy starts to explain something. She's okay, there is something. I was getting so nervous about what she was going to say, because I'm oh, she's going to say it. She's high, she can't lie. But she ends up talking about the moment with Leo where she put his hand on her neck from last season. And she seemed really honest. I don't know if anyone else had that impression, but to me it seemed like she had somehow not forgotten about what happened with her and Evan, but had tried so hard to wipe that from her memory that it just wasn't even coming up for her. And Steven looks almost sickly happy also when she starts telling this, because he just so badly wants to hear her say what she did wrong. And to punish her, of course. So he is clearly annoyed when she doesn't come clean after that story. Then he tries to get, again, even more pointed and says, have you ever been attracted to any of my friends? And of course he throws in because I think your friends are beautiful. Bree's beautiful. Oh my god, I hate this man. He says if he met her, Pippa first, he might have gone after one of them because they're really hot. It makes me so sick. And of course Lucy's like, why are you telling me this? And he tries to play it off and say, oh, because it's, you know, it's a safe space. We can be honest. It is just so weird and manipulative of him. I mean, I think part of it is because he is jealous of Bree, and maybe he thinks telling her that will push her away from them. But yeah, made me sick. He begs Lucy, essentially. He's like, just tell me. You gotta tell me anything. And she says very convincingly there's nothing. So Steven's face just drops, and he's like, I'm tired, and tries to go to bed. And Lucy's like, I cannot go to bed. I still feel too high. But of course, Steven is throwing a little tantrum. Lucy looks terrified. And it seems like she maybe has a moment where she realizes Steven must know the secret somehow. Of course, Steven's not going to bring it up right away because he needs some extra time to think about the most manipulative way that he can bring this back up. Then we cut to Bree with her face smushed against the glass, like the pane of the bus station, like window pane. And it turns out that her and Wrigley fell asleep last night while they were talking at the gas station. Or not the gas station. Oh my god, I haven't been saying that. The bus station. The bus stop. And yeah, they slept there all night. I don't know if I was the only one. I got terrified at first because we don't see Wrigley at first. We just see Bree, and I was like, oh my gosh, did Wrigley somehow walk off and Bree slept there all night alone? Because that would be scary. Side note, I love Bree in this 80s look, especially with her haircut. Someone cast her in an 80s themed film. But they get up, they kind of laugh at first, but then they go, oh, this wasn't weird, right? But maybe we shouldn't tell anyone about it, because maybe that would make it weird. Am I the only one who didn't think this was that strange? I don't know. I mean, just to me, like, just knowing these characters, I feel like if they told Pippa, she wouldn't really freak out. Like, I don't know. I felt really strange about the way that they tried to say, oh, this isn't weird, we shouldn't tell anyone, because it was so innocent. And, like, it sounds weird. I guess maybe they think, oh, they would tell someone that we both fell asleep at the bus stop, but they wouldn't believe them, and they would think something else happened, and that was, like, their cover-up story. But I don't know, I got a weird feeling from it, and I didn't like it because I really loved the conversation the night before, and their friendship, their genuine friendship, but it feels like the show is trying to, like, set something up. I don't know what they're setting up for. Lucy wakes up the next morning. Steven is nowhere to be seen. Bree comes in with some coffee, asks how she is after last night. And then Lucy gets a message saying she needs to go to the dean's office. They say, Lucy starts freaking out saying, oh my gosh, was it Oliver's car? Because remember when they bashed Oliver's car, the three of them? But why wouldn't Bree get a message? Then she goes to text Pippa. I don't think Pippa responds. But it seems like it's only Lucy. So what is going on? Oh yeah, Pippa declines the call because she is on her way to Diana's room. They start fighting very quickly. You know, there's a fine line between love and hate. And Pippa reveals that Diana has been on her mind. A lot. Diana responds with, I don't know what to say to that, and then Pippa just leaves. Now we've got the morning after, but with Evan and Wrigley. First, we see Molly, like, sprinting out of there. Clearly she stayed the night. And she looks so embarrassed, and it was just so funny. She is definitely having anxiety of all kinds. But Wrigley and Evan talk. Wrigley says about Bree, he says, I can't believe she was with a married man. And Evan's like, he was married? He didn't know that at this point. He just knew 45. And he is rocked. Bree, being the sweet friend that she is, walks Lucy over to her meeting with the dean. And while she's over there, she gets the idea to go around the corner to where Oliver's office is. And she sees from afar a girl, well, him and a girl. He pokes his head out. She comes out, exiting his office. So this is Iris Apatow. I know there's been a lot of discussion about her joining for season 3. First of all, I think this was interesting. I wish they changed her hair because at first I was like, I thought she was Lucy. And then sometimes later she looks like just for a split second, but I think she's Lucy, which keeps throwing me off. And just like the jacket she's wearing too in this scene looks like a jacket that Lucy wears at some point. Anyway. So, clearly Oliver, I mean, we knew he was a creep, but there's a pattern. It's a cycle. He's on to the next victim. Bree is freaked out. rightfully so, and essentially follows the girl down the hallway and just kind of like watches her for a second. Evan has been talking about how he has no idea what he wants to do after graduation, so he's like, oh, I'll go talk to my advisor. Guess who his advisor is? Guess who? We were just there. It is Oliver. I mean, he sucks. Oliver sucks as an advisor. He is just, like, not helpful at all. But I wonder, doesn't he know Bree was with Evan? Like, I need to fact check this. Someone let me know in the comments, too. But is that why? Does he know? He's just so awful. I mean, he must know. He must know. He also makes this comment at the end, like, oh, you should think about this a little more and possibly drink some electrolytes. Am I the only one who was confused? How does he know that he had I guess he looked hungover? I guess he looks really hungover. I don't know, but he wasn't acting weird. I don't know. Okay, now we flash to Lucy in this meeting. You know what it is? You know what it's about? It's about the accusation she made against Chris. And of course she says, like, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to make any charges. But, I mean, I'm glad we see consequences for this. Clearly Molly did bring it up. I mean, I'm glad someone brought it up. I don't know who. It's kind of bad that this has been spreading around. I mean, no wonder Lydia and her still aren't friends, that they haven't reconciled. Because I guess people must know. But yeah, this was a tough scene. I mean, luckily, they seem okay with her saying she doesn't want to escalate. So, that's kind of just that. We'll see if that comes back around at any point. We get a moment with Pippa and Wrigley together, and they decide that it might be good for Wrigley to take, like, an art class, which I think is a great idea. Okay, now we get Lucy in her room. She is reminiscing, looking at photos from her graduation of her and Lydia. Stephen comes in, and within 2 sentences, he essentially says, I know what you and Evan did. Lucy tries to deny it for a bit, but once she realizes that he knows, and there's no convincing, I mean, this was great acting to me. She just breaks down. Like, the way her lip quivered, I could feel Lucy's panic in that moment. And, like, yes, it is bad on Lucy to not tell him. However, he is Stephen, and, I guess in Lucy's position, like, she's in fear of what he would do if he knew that information, so it makes it a little different. Okay, interesting moment here, because Stephen says, he doesn't know if he can move on from this, if he can get over it. And Lucy freaks out to that. She's like, what do you mean? Stephen says, are you worried about losing me, or are you scared of me? And what a good question, because, I mean, I'm asking that question too. Is it more about not having Stephen in her life anymore? Is it more about what he will do? That recurring cycle of, abuse. I would say abuse. She says, it's of course I'm scared of losing you. But then after a moment, she's like, Stephen, what are you going to do? What are you thinking? Stephen, what are you going to do? And I mean, that just shows her true answer. It's like, what are you going to do now? That's the fear. What can he do? He ends up saying, I don't know, let's just see how this goes. Terrifying answer, because that means Stephen could wage war and do something crazy at any moment. Like, there's just no security. I mean, there was never, like, security in this relationship, but now they are really on thin ice. We're now at the end of the episode, and for this last section, we flash back to the wedding timeline. We're in the same place with Lucy and Bree, where Bree's freaking out after hearing the voicemail. But not because of what we think, because Lucy says, what do you mean, what's going on? And Bree says, I can't tell you. What could she not tell Lucy? Like, what could this possibly be? Is it something with Stephen? Is it something with Wrigley? I mean, once Pippa comes in, Bree tries to act completely normal. So is it to do with Wrigley and Pippa? We get our first glimpse of the wedding ceremony. Stephen finally comes in with Lydia, I guess just in time. He had a moment beforehand to send that voicemail, and then he wanted to walk in. As the procession begins, we get another cover, a rendition of Addicted to Love. Such a fun callback. I love the way this show uses music and, like, weaves it within the plot. Bree walks down the aisle, And her and Steven share a look. Steven looks at her. He kind of does his, like, smug smile. And Bree kind of smiles back. I don't know. I don't want everyone in the show to be bad. Like, come on, I love Bree. Come on. What could possibly happen? What could possibly happen? I don't want to read theories because I kind of want to be totally surprised. But I don't know. Bree does not seem fazed at all. You know, when they have to say I do, she says, of course I do. What? I mean, I thought this was a great first episode. They never really disappoint. What did you think? What are some of your season predictions? I mean, these episodes, I know that a lot have come out already. I'm a little bit late. I know. I was having computer issues. But I'm trying to catch up, and it feels like it's already going so quickly. I can't believe it. So let's discuss together. Let me know what you thought about this first episode. I'm keeping spoilers out of all of these recordings I do, just so that, you know, if you're watching, we can watch along together. Yeah, I'm just super excited. So let's talk later, and I hope you enjoyed. Bye.